This isn't just a story. It's a journey, one that'll stay with you long after the video ends. So if you've ever felt love, loss, betrayal, or hope, then stay with us. Because this story deserves to be heard from the very first second to the very last. If this video moves you, even for a moment, please give it a like. Leave a comment telling us which part hit you the hardest, and share it with someone who needs to feel something real today. And if you love stories that are raw, emotional, and unforgettable, then subscribe to the channel. Because we don't just tell stories here, we bring them to life.
Nathan Blackwood was the kind of man people whispered about. Not because he liked attention but because he demanded it without saying a word. At 34 he ran Blackwood Enterprises with an iron grip. Never smiling, never apologizing. His employees feared him. His board respected him. And no one, absolutely no one, got close to him. Except her. Lily Carter had only been working in his mansion for 6 months. 23, soft-spoken, with honey-brown hair always tied in a loose ponytail and eyes that sparkled even when she was exhausted. She was hired as just the maid, but something about her presence didn't fit the uniform she wore. She moved with grace and yet never called attention to herself. She was kind, thoughtful, and painfully aware that her boss was nothing like the fairy tale men in her daydreams. But even nightmares can be beautiful up close. Nathan never said much to her. A passing nod, a sharp order, or the occasional cold stare if she forgot to knock. And yet, every time their paths crossed in that massive glass-walled mansion, Lily felt something stir inside her. Something dangerous. One Friday evening, everything changed. There had been a storm. Heavy rain had flooded the roads and most of the staff had gone home early. Only Lily remained, finishing up laundry, wiping down marble counters, humming softly to distract herself from the howling wind. She didn't know Nathan was still in the house. He appeared behind her in the kitchen like a shadow. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said, voice low and smooth. He jumped, turning around. "I didn't know anyone else was here, sir. The roads are flooded. I figured I'd wait it out and finish up my duties." He studied her for a long moment. "I see." Silence. She tried to look away but his gaze was unrelenting. There was something different in his eyes that night. Not the usual indifference. Something deeper, sadder, and perhaps lonelier. "I'll make some tea," she said quickly, needing to break the moment. He nodded once. As she turned back toward the counter, she didn't notice how he watched her. How his eyes lingered on the curve of her neck, the way her fingers trembled ever so slightly as she reached for the mugs. The storm raged outside. Inside, something else brewed. Later that night, Lily walked quietly down the hallway toward the guest room, towel in hand, wearing a long cotton sleep shirt that brushed her knees. Her hair was damp. The house was silent. But as she passed the study, she heard something. A sound. A glass hitting the floor. She pushed open the door. Nathan stood there, his shirt half unbuttoned, hair a mess, eyes wild. A whiskey bottle sat nearly empty beside him. He looked unrecognizable. "Mr. Blackwood, are you all right?" He turned to her, a flicker of emotion crossing his usually stone-cold face. "Do I look all right, Lily?" he asked bitterly. "No," she said softly, stepping inside. She should have walked away. She should have closed the door. But something kept her rooted there. His pain, the storm, the loneliness in his voice, and the way he said her name. "Why are you always so kind?" he muttered. "Because someone has to be," she whispered. He reached out slowly, hesitantly. And she didn't pull away. They didn't plan for it. They didn't speak. They just fell, into each other's arms, into the heat of the moment, into a night neither of them could explain. His lips were rough but searching. Her hands trembling but brave. She felt the walls around him crumble with every touch. And he felt something he hadn't allowed himself in years. Connection. She didn't feel like a maid. He didn't feel like a monster. That night they weren't CEO and servant. They were just a man and a woman who needed to feel something real. When it was over, they lay breathless. He didn't say a word. Just turned over, staring at the ceiling, jaw tight. She gathered her clothes in silence, her heart pounding, not from what they'd done but from what it meant. He never looked at her again that night. And by morning she was gone. Lily hadn't stepped foot in the mansion since that night. It had been 2 weeks. After slipping out before sunrise, she called the agency and requested a transfer. Emergency family matter, she told them. I need to leave immediately. They didn't ask questions. And Nathan didn't stop her. In fact, he hadn't called. Not a message. Not a word. That hurt more than she expected. She had told herself it meant nothing. That it was just a moment. An accident born out of rain, whiskey, and loneliness. But deep down she knew better. There was something in the way he had held her. In how his hands trembled when they touched her skin. Still, it was easier to pretend. So Lily packed away her uniform, buried her memories, and tried to move on. Until the morning her stomach flipped. At first she thought it was nerves. She'd barely been eating. Her sleep was off. Maybe it was stress. But when it happened again twice in one day, she bought a test. 2 lines. Bold. Clear. Immediate. Her hands trembled as she sat on the bathroom floor of her tiny studio apartment. Pregnant. She was pregnant. And not just pregnant. A week later, at her first clinic visit, the nurse smiled warmly at the screen. Well, she said, tilting her head, looks like you're having twins. Lily's heart stopped. Twins. 2 strong heartbeats. Congratulations, sweetie. She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. The room suddenly felt too bright. Too small. Twins. Nathan Blackwood's twins. Across town, Nathan sat at his glass office desk, signing documents with his usual dead-eyed focus. But something felt off. Ever since that night his thoughts had been scattered. He hadn't meant for it to happen. Hadn't planned it. He had simply unraveled. And Lily, sweet, innocent Lily, had been there. He hadn't spoken to her since. Not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know how. How do you speak to someone when you've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed? But her absence haunted him. He walked past the kitchen and expected her humming. He saw a glass out of place and imagined her fixing it. Every time the front door creaked, a part of him hoped she'd return. But she never did. And he never went looking. Because Nathan Blackwood didn't chase anyone. Lily, meanwhile, had decisions to make. She sat on her bed holding the sonogram photo. 2 tiny shapes. 2 tiny hearts. 2 lives she hadn't planned for, but couldn't ignore. What would she tell them someday? That their father was a stranger? A mistake? No. He wasn't a mistake. But he was complicated. And cold. And terrifying. Still, they deserved to know him. Whether he wanted them or not. So, with shaking fingers and a knot in her stomach, Lily picked up her phone and dialed. Nathan stared at the unknown number flashing on his screen. He was about to ignore it until something stopped him. He answered. Hello. There was a pause. Then a soft, familiar voice. It's me. His breath caught. Lily. I didn't know if I should call, but I need to see you. His voice was unreadable. Why? Because it's important. Another pause. Come to the house, he said quietly. That evening, Lily stood at the gates of the Blackwood estate once again. Everything looked the same, and yet it didn't. She walked up the marble steps, her hand resting unconsciously on her belly. Her heart pounded in her chest like a warning bell. Nathan opened the door himself. He looked exhausted. Older. Or maybe just more human. You look different, he said slowly. I am, she replied. They stood in silence before he finally stepped aside and let her in. She walked to the same living room where everything changed. And without any build-up she looked him in the eye and said, I'm pregnant. His face went blank. And, it's not just one, she added. He blinked. It's twins. Silence stretched between them like a knife. Then he spoke, his voice low and rough. Are you sure? She held out the sonogram. Positive. He stared at it. His jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists. I didn't come here for money, she said quickly. I don't want anything from you. But I thought you had the right to know. He looked at her for a long moment. And now that I do? Lily swallowed. That's up to you. She turned to leave. But his voice stopped her. Wait. She froze. He stepped forward, eyes still locked on the sonogram. Don't go yet. Lily didn't move. Nathan stood still, holding the sonogram in one hand, his other balled into a fist. His face was unreadable, like a war was raging behind his cold gray eyes. I said don't go, he repeated, quieter this time. She turned around slowly. Why? So you can process it later and disappear again. His jaw tensed. I needed time. You've had weeks. He didn't reply. Lily's hand instinctively rested over her stomach. She wasn't afraid, just tired. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I told you because I thought you deserved to know. That's it. Nathan exhaled, walked past her and sat on the edge of the grand piano in the hallway. He looked smaller somehow. Not in size but in presence. You said it's twins, he said quietly. She nodded. 2 heartbeats. Strong ones. His lips parted but no words came out. Instead he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, rubbing his temples. This wasn't supposed to happen, he muttered. Lily blinked. You think I planned this? No. But I never planned to feel like this either. She crossed her arms, unsure whether to be relieved or offended. Feel like what? He looked up at her finally. Scared. The honesty in that one word disarmed her. Nathan Blackwood, billionaire, ruthless, feared, scared. I don't know how to be a father, he admitted. Well, Lily replied, her voice steady, neither do I know how to be a mother. But here we are. They sat in silence. Then he stood. You'll move back in. She froze. Excuse me. You shouldn't be alone, he said. You'll have the best care. My doctor. My staff. You'll be safe here. She stared at him. You think you can just snap your fingers and control my life? His expression shifted. It's not about control. It's about responsibility. And what if I don't want to be your responsibility? You're carrying my children, Lily, he said firmly. That makes you my responsibility whether you want it or not. Her heart pounded. You can't just drag me into your world again, Nathan. I left for a reason. You shut down after that night. You didn't call. You didn't ask. You didn't even care if I was okay. I did care, he said, voice suddenly raw. But I didn't know how to face you. Lily swallowed. And now. I don't want to make the same mistake twice. Her eyes softened just a little. I'm not your property. I never said you were. Then if I move in, it's on my terms. He raised a brow. Such as? No locked doors. No orders. No pretending this is just duty. I want honesty. He nodded slowly. And what about you? What about me? You walked away after that night. No note. No goodbye. I was scared too, she admitted. But the difference is I showed up today. That hit him. He stepped closer. All right, he said. Your terms. She tilted her head. Just like that. Nathan gave a tight smile. I'm not as cold as people think. He gave him a look. You kind of are. He actually chuckled, low and unexpected. It made her chest ache more than she expected. Later that evening, Lily stood in her old room, the guest suite near the garden. Everything was exactly how she left it. Clean, organized, untouched. Except this time her suitcases were filled with prenatal vitamins, ultrasounds and maternity clothes. She sat on the bed, breathing deeply. Was this the right decision? Could she really live under the same roof as the man who broke her heart, and now held it? There was a knock. Nathan stepped in carrying a tray. Tea, toast, and sliced apples. She blinked. You made that. Had the chef do it. I just carried it. She smiled despite herself. I googled what pregnant women need, he said awkwardly. This came up. That's unexpectedly thoughtful. I don't want you fainting on my floor. Wow, she teased. That almost sounded like you care. He sat on the edge of the bed. I don't know how to be good at this. But I want to try. Lily looked at him for a long moment. And for the first time since that night she believed him. 3 weeks passed since Lily had moved back into the Blackwood mansion. It had been strange. There were no more lines between employer and employee. No more awkward silence. Nathan tried in his own way, making sure she ate, walked slowly on the stairs and rested enough. But what stood out most were the quiet moments. Like the time he fell asleep outside the guest room door, just to make sure she was okay after a dizzy spell. Or how he started reading parenting books late at night, thinking she wouldn't notice. But the space between them was still there. Unspoken. Unresolved. Until the morning everything changed. Lily had been feeling uneasy for a few days. Mild cramps, backache, fatigue. He brushed it off. But when she collapsed while pouring cereal in the kitchen, Nathan caught her just before she hit the floor. Lily. Her eyes fluttered open, but she looked dazed. He scooped her up in his arms and shouted for the driver. We're going to the hospital. Now. At St. Mercy Hospital, time slowed. Doctors rushed around her. Machines beeped. Nurses spoke in quick bursts. And Nathan paced outside the room, fists clenched, face pale. For the first time, the man who never broke was breaking. A nurse stepped out. She and the babies are okay. Just dehydration and stress. We're putting her on a drip. She needs rest. He exhaled deeply, leaning against the wall. Stress. That word echoed in his mind like a curse. All his wealth, all his power, and he still couldn't protect her from the thing she feared the most. Being alone. Hours later, Lily woke up to the soft sound of paper rustling. Nathan was sitting by her bed, holding a tiny pink baby book in his hand. His tie was loosened, his eyes red from exhaustion. You stayed, she murmured. I'm not leaving again, he replied without looking up. She watched him silently. I scared you, didn't I? You nearly stopped my heart. She smiled weakly. Maybe now you know how I felt when you disappeared after that night. He looked up sharply, regret etched across his face. I was a coward, he said. I've built companies, torn down empires, but nothing scared me more than what I felt for you. Lily blinked. And what exactly do you feel? He stood up, walked to the window, then turned around. I love you. Silence. Lily's heart stopped. Nathan continued, voice steady. Not because you're carrying my children. Not out of guilt or responsibility. I love you because you saw me when I was nothing but stone, and you still stayed. He stepped closer. You softened me. You brought me back to life. And if I lose you now, I lose everything. Tears filled her eyes. Then why does it still feel like you're afraid of me? I'm not afraid of you, he said. I'm afraid for you. Of dragging you into a world of media, money, judgment. She gave a small smile. Nathan, I'm already in it. 2 days later, they left the hospital hand in hand. But the moment they stepped outside, flashes went off. Reporters. Cameras. Headlines. Who's the mystery woman with Nathan Blackwood? CEO's pregnant lover spotted leaving hospital. Twins on the way for New York's most guarded billionaire? Nathan's jaw clenched. Lily froze. He squeezed her hand. Then did something she never expected. He stepped onto the small podium near the parking lot entrance, facing the cameras. This is Lily Carter, he said loudly. She is not a mystery. She's not a scandal. She's the woman I love. And yes, she's carrying my children. Our children. And if anyone has a problem with that, take it up with me. Gasps. Silence. Then chaos. Lily stared at him, stunned. He walked back to her calmly. You just told the world, she whispered. He smiled. I needed them to hear what I should have told you long ago. And what's that? That I choose you. Every time. No matter what. A few months later, in a quiet garden ceremony behind the mansion, they said their vows. No paparazzi. No gold-plated aisles. Just close friends, flowers, and a gentle wind that carried a sense of peace. Lily, in a flowing white dress, was glowing, both from the pregnancy and from the love in her eyes. Nathan, no longer cold, no longer hiding, placed his hand on her round belly and whispered, You gave me 2 lives, but saved mine first. And when the twins kicked at that very moment, they both laughed. Loud. Free. They were never supposed to fall for each other. They weren't meant to meet like that. But love doesn't ask for permission. Sometimes, even the coldest hearts burn the brightest. Red Heart.